Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third speaker in our speaker series for the Youth Lead the Charge Fellowship. Today, I'm super excited to be chatting with Jocelyn Yow. Jocelyn serves as Ignite's advocacy director, spearheading the organization's legislative priorities and programming to teach the in and outs of legislative advocacy to high school and college women across the country. She has over 10 years of experience in politics and has worked at all levels of government, and she won her election for Eastville City Council in Riverside County with 40-point margin, which is crazy, at the age of 23. And at the age of 25, she became the youngest woman of color to serve as mayor of a California city. She also is a professor of political science at Norco College here in Riverside County, and is just overall so incredible. So we're so excited to be chatting with you today, Jocelyn.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Okay, so I'm gonna just add to you. Hello. So first off, kind of getting started, you've had the unique experience of being an elected official, both as a city council member and as mayor. How does the experience of governing change the way you think about organizing? What do you understand about power now that you didn't when you first ran?
Yeah. But Alex, thank you for having me here. It is nice to see you again. So yes, I've been on council for 8 years now, which feels like a long time, but also in the grand scheme of things, it's not. One of the things that being in office has really shifted my perspective on organizing, it's just how slow government can sometimes be. Actually, let me take that back. Not just sometimes, oftentimes. And that's the one thing that I've had to learn myself. So one of the things that I'm very passionate about is building a library in our city. And that's something I've been pushing for since day one in office. And so since December 2018, we're in 2026 and we're finally building our own library, but it won't be done for another 2 years and then maybe take another 6 months or to a year to open it. So really, we won't have our own library until 2029. So if you look at 2018 to 2029, that's 11 years. And that's me being in office, pushing for it. And so just recognizing that things take time, like a long time. And that's one of the things that I wish everyone would know is that, like, when you're advocating for something, just know that you're in it for the long haul. Like, you can't just talk about it for like a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month, and hoping that changes will occur. It's really not. Like, you have to basically talk about it all the time and do something about it. And then if you can't, because I also recognize that we're not, we have like a million things going on in our lives. Make sure that you're building a community, you're building a bench, you're building this pipeline of community who is also invested in this issue that you're advocating for. And some of the examples that I can think of too at Ignite, actually, tampon tax. So to remove tax on menstrual products, that we've been working on that issue for, oh goodness, 7, 8 years. And guess what? In the state of California, where we are, we're still getting taxed when we buy menstrual products, right? With that said, sometimes we also get unexpected wins. In the state of Texas, for example, we were able to pass that. Mind blown. Think about that. It actually happened in the state of Texas before the state of California, but we were able to make that happen in the state of Texas. And so it did take us 7 years, but we did make it happen regardless. And so just know that changes take time, especially when it's something big, something that really changes the system. And it's not unique. It's the way the system was designed. Looking back, even the right to vote, right? I hope y'all have voted if you're able to vote. We have an election coming up. even the right for women to vote. That, I mean, everyone talk about the 19th Amendment, everyone talk about like, the early 1900s, but that actually took women organizing over and over again. That actually took nearly 100 years to be included in the Constitution. It didn't just happen overnight. And this is what and I teach political science as well, as Alex has mentioned. This is what the text, like, oftentimes I get really frustrated because, like, all we see is, oh, the 19th Amendment, the right for women to vote. That's all the textbook will tell you, right? But no, in reality, it took women, our ancestors, over like 100 years of work of organizing to make that a reality. And that was only for white women, I should add, because the road, the journey for women of color, for Black women, was even longer. That didn't really happen until like after the mid 1900s, sorry, mid 20th century. And so, all that to say, changes take a freaking long time. And you got to have patience. You gotta be able to push through. You gotta, despite getting all the no's, you gotta be able to push through and build a community, because there's power in numbers. Build a community, find people who are also passionate about that same issue, and collectively you'll be able to make changes more effectively.
Thank you, Jocelyn. That's, yeah, all of that. I especially love how you talk about like just how long things take. Like we tend to think of things in snapshots or in moments, but even the work to that, moment that you see on social media or in the news, like took so much time and effort that people don't see or
Yeah.
even
It's not
imagine.
a TikTok video. It's not going to happen in 20 seconds. Like it takes time.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned that, at Ignite, you teach high school and college young women the ins and outs of legislative advocacy. What's the biggest gap between what young people think legislative advocacy looks like and what it can actually require?
Yeah, so the time that it takes, which I had talked about that. But also the other one is, people tend to not realize how much power local government has. So great example, going back to, let's, since I brought up the 19th Amendment. So it took 100 years for Congress to finally include it in the amendment, which guarantees the right for women, well, really white women, to vote at that time. But actually, before that, some states had already, because voting at the end of the day, if you know a little bit about federalism, voting is a state issue. And so some states were actually allowing women to vote before the passage of the 19th Amendment. And so I don't think people realize how much power local and state government might have, when you feel like things are not, yes, on CNN, on Fox News, whatever it is that you watch, there's the attention is always about federal government, it's about White House, it's about Trump, it's about Congress, but really there's so much power, that local government and state government have. And so, the other example is, and this is something that I've been working on for years as well, it's paid family leave. And so I'm a mom. I have a little kid, and the United States is the only advanced country that still does not have any sort of paid family leave or paid parental leave. Um, God knows, like, we've been fighting for this issue for decades. With that said, some states are stepping up. California is one of the states. We do provide paid family leave in the state of California. And some cities also provide, some cities in states where they don't provide paid family leave, they're also stepping up by providing paid family leave in their own city. And so when you feel like you're not making any progress at the federal level, which is probably true, um, try to think of like, what can I do locally? How can I work on this at the local level or at the state level? And then from there on, hopefully you're creating that ripple effect um, that will get to the federal level. That's the goal, right? So yeah, again, like just thinking about your local government and your state government, those elected officials in those seats, they make decisions that affect our daily lives as well. And also, in fact, I just want to add this fun fact real quick before we move on to the next question. There's actually over 500,000 local elected seats available like across the country. It's a lot. And they range from your, we know about city council, but there's also like water board, people who make a decision about the water we drink, air quality. There's people who serve on like air, I don't know what they call it, depending on where you are. But also like in my area, we also have mosquito board, like vector control and mosquito. Yes, it's a thing. And so this summer, when you're seeing lots of mosquitoes, call your elected officials. That's actually what I do. And then I would call them and then they will come out and they will check and then they will spray. It's a whole thing. It is real. Obviously, we also know about school board. But yeah, there are so many elected officials across the country at the local level who are actually making decisions that affect our daily lives. So again, if you don't know where to start, and this is what I would tell my students, is that start by getting to know your city council members, getting to know your local elected officials. And then from there, you can find ways to make a difference locally.
Wow, I had no idea there was such a thing as a mosquito board. I've just
Yeah.
been getting bit for
Yeah.
years and didn't know I could
Alex,
do
you're in
something about
Riverside
it.
County too.
I am in Riverside
Oh
County,
my
yeah.
goodness. Then yes. Yep.
So
You
I'm
do
gonna
have
call
one
the
too.
mosquito board. I'll be like, get out here. They're eating
Yes.
me alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so we have time for one more question, then I'm going to turn it over to the fellows and any of our audience members who want to ask you some questions as well, which you're an incredibly interesting person, so I'm sure they have a lot of. But there can be a tension that comes up in a lot of like youth civic work between being taken seriously by institutions like your local city council or your local government or your representative and staying authentic to the communities that you come from and wanting to still like represent them authentically. So, how did you navigate that as a young elected official? And how do you teach other young people to navigate it now?
I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Like I think for us, for elected officials to take you seriously, like you have to be true to yourself and true to your community. Because here's the thing, right? Like everyone has different live experience. And so I think the moment you try to be someone else, I think that's where we're like, okay, like, what are you talking about? So I actually think they complement each other, like being true to yourself and your life experience and your community. I think that's very important. And I will tell you this, especially if you're advocating at the state level. So I'll use, is everyone here in California? Is okay. So think about this. You have state senator, state assembly member, right? So every one of us, we have one state senator, one state assembly member, and then one Congress member, and then two US senators. Okay, I'm losing count on my fingers. But they spend most of their weeks in Sacramento and in DC. Like they are maybe back in the district, maybe at most 2 days out of the week. So they're back on Saturdays and Sundays. That's if they even come back. Some members do not come back at all, by the way, especially if you're in a safe blue or safe red district. Like my member of Congress came back maybe 4 times a year. So yeah, I was going to say his name, but that's not the point. So what I'm trying to say here is these elected officials, especially at the state and federal level, they're so far removed from their district, in my opinion, literally, that I feel like sometimes they actually don't know what's happening in their district. And not only that, they represent 1 million people. Like the state senate, each state senator represents a little bit over 1 million people. As capable as they might be, I don't think it's possible to know every single neighborhood in their district. They might try. to give them credit, I do think there are some good elected officials, but I just think it's humanly impossible to get to know every single neighborhood, knowing what's happening at all times, especially when you're so far away. So all that to say, I truly believe that nobody, and I mean this, like nobody knows your neighborhood, nobody knows your streets, nobody knows your school like you do. And so when you advocate for your community, just know that you are the most qualified person to talk about the problems in your community. That's you. And so when you advocate for your community, stay true to yourself and carry that conviction of knowing that you know your community best and you're actually doing them a favor by sharing what's happening in your community. And so again, like just keep that in mind as you're sharing your stories, as you're advocating for your communities in Sacramento and in DC. Because at the end of the day, and they might be good people, like don't take me wrong. I actually know some elected officials whom I think, some politicians whom I think are just great people all around. But at the end of the day, when they're representing over 1 million people, it's impossible for them to know everything. And so stay true to yourself, be patient, because changes do take time, and advocate, use your own voice and share your stories and advocate for your community.
I love that. Thank you, Jocelyn. Especially the part of like you're doing them a favor by sharing this information because you're right. Like they may have their idea of what are priorities for the community, but if they just they don't know what they don't know. And
No,
there's so many different things going on in a community, in a district at one time that like staffers can try, but it's almost impossible to like know the full picture of what's going on. So
it's almost impossible. Again, like when you're representing over 1 million people, that's
like,
it's impossible.
yeah. So all of us are doing them a favor by being involved and letting them know what the problems are. Amazing. Okay, cool. I'm going to